Hi, this is Angie with Marathon Training Academy, and I'm going to do a short yoga video today. It's going to be mostly focused on some easy stretching recovery poses that will be perfect for after a run, maybe after you've been sitting for a long time and need to loosen up, or any other kind of workout as well. By the way, if you see that I'm wearing this little green pouch thing, it has the microphone in it so that you can hear me. So try not to be too distracted by that. And just start to walk your hands forward as you hinge over your crossed legs. The important thing is to hinge from your hips, so you don't want to arch or curve your back. So just try to come forward as much as you can. You may be very flexible. You may be able to get your elbows on the ground or even lay further forward. You may be up here, that's fine. It's all about stretching to your capability level. And come back up to a seated position, and this time cross your legs the other way. So the other leg will be in front this time. And place your right hand on your left knee. And we're going to do a gentle twist. Bring your left hand behind your back. And keeping your torso nice and tall, just start to twist to the left side. Continue breathing and release. Place your left hand on your right knee, right hand behind you. Another gentle twist. Keeping your spine nice and long. Continue breathing and release. And we're going to stretch out the arms and shoulders, so bring your right hand, place it behind your back, and you can just kind of put some pressure on your elbow, pushing it back a little bit further. If you feel nice and flexible through the shoulders, you can bring this left hand behind your back. You can't see this, but I'm joining my hands behind the back. If you can only get to here, that's fine. Some people use a towel, which helps close that distance. And it's just all about opening up the shoulder area. And release. Bring the left hand overhead. Bring it behind your back. Again, you can kind of help stretch that arm down your back by using the right hand. And then bring the right hand behind your back. If you can, bring those hands together. If not, just stretch as far as you can. And continue breathing and release. We're going to go to our hands and knees now. Stretch out the spine. Anytime you're in a hands and knees position, you want your knees under your hips, you want your hands under your shoulders, and you want your fingertips spread wide apart. We're going to go into cat-cow, so you're going to arch your back up, drop your head, really arch, and then release. Drop your belly and reverse that spine. And back, arch the back into cat, and release into cow. And again. Just go according to your own pace, go according to your breath. As you come into cat, try to contract that stomach, and then release. We'll do a couple more. And release. Last one, back to cow. And then return your spine to neutral. So try to always keep that stomach, those abs tucked in. That'll help strengthen your core. And we're going to go into bird dog. So we're going to bring our right arm forward and our left leg straight back. Try to keep your spine nice and long. Flex that foot so you can feel tension through your backside, and keep your face looking down to the mat. Continue to breathe and release. And let's lift up the left arm and the right leg. Again, flex that back foot. Keep your face looking down to the mat. Squeeze to the backside, squeeze your abs in tight. Continue to breathe and release. We're going to lift up the left leg again, and you're going to kind of balance a little bit on your right arm. Try to reach back a bit. If your balance is a little bit shaky, that's fine. Grab your left hand around your left ankle and just try to pull that foot back towards your glutes. Feeling a nice stretch in your quadriceps, the front of your thighs. Hold it for a few seconds and breathe. And release. And we're going to bring up the right leg behind us. Kind of shift your weight onto your left hand. Reach behind. Grab that right ankle with the right hand. And again, pull that foot in toward your glutes. Feel that stretch in the front of your thigh and your quads. Now if you feel tightness in any of these areas, you can hold them longer. The great thing about yoga, go ahead and release, is that it will really teach you a lot about your body, where your tight areas are. Now curl your toes under. We're going to go into down dog, so you'll press through your hands. Again, keep your fingertips spread wide apart. You're going to want your ears between your arms, your upper arms. And you may not be able to get your heels all the way down. That's fine. You just want to press your tailbone to the ceiling. Really press through those hands. You don't want a big bend in your wrist like this. You want to try to keep it as flat as possible. And really press back, and we'll start to walk the dog. So just bend the right knee, and then the left, right, and left. It's all about just trying to get those calves loosened up a little bit. Continue bending left and right. Just go at your own pace, really pressing through the hands. And go ahead and let both heels sink toward the mat. Again, it's not important that your heels touch the mat, but as you get more flexibility in your calves, this may be possible for you. Think about lifting up your kneecaps away from the mat and try to lift up your toes off the mat. That'll give you a deeper stretch as well. And continue to breathe through down dog. Really feel that good stretch. And come forward into full plank. This is a position that's really great for building strength. We're not going to hold it for a long time because this isn't about building strength in this video. But this is full plank position. Keep your abs in tight. And come forward, tops of your feet. Try to keep your thighs lifted off the mat. Let your chest come through your arms. And this is upward dog. And then push back, let your knees hit the mat into extended child. Just try to get your glutes to sit back toward your heels. And just extend those shoulders and those arms. Take a couple deep breaths in child's pose. And then again, straighten the legs as you press into the hands. Down dog again. And just work on letting those heels sink into the mat. Stretching your body out. Tailbone pointed toward the ceiling. And let's float the right leg up to the ceiling. Try to keep your hips as level as possible. Press through those hands. And try to get some height with that heel. This is really good for opening up your hips. And step that right leg through between your hands. Drop the back knee. And we're going to come up into crescent lunge. Arms beside your ears. Again, you're going to want your knee behind your toe here. You don't want to hyperextend the knee. Abs in tight. And if you can just do a little bit of a back bend, you'll feel a nice stretch here in your hip flexor. Only go to the point where it's comfortable for you though. And hands back to the mat. Step back into down dog. Really pushing through the hands. And then float the left heel up to the ceiling. Again, try to keep the hips as level as possible. You don't want open rotation. Just try to get some height there. Releasing the hips. And step it through your hands again. Let that back knee drop down. Knee behind the toe. Arms beside the ears. And then come back into a little bit of a backward bend if you can. Feel that nice stretch in the right hip flexor. And release the hands to the mat. Step back into down dog again. And again, we'll float the right leg up to the ceiling. We'll go through a few of these sequences and you'll notice that your hips get a lot more flexible as we go. And step that right foot through. This time we're just going to stay in low lunge. So your back knee, your left knee is lifted off the mat. Belly and chest will be down on that right thigh. Again, you don't want your knee to be in front of your toes, so check that. Make sure you can see your toes there. And just kind of let your body sink down a little bit. Feel the stretch in that left hip flexor. Breathe through this stretch. And keeping your belly and chest down on your right thigh, just start to straighten that right leg as much as possible. The important thing is that you keep your belly and chest down, not how straight you get that right leg. Back to low lunge. Step back into down dog. Press through those hands. And float the left heel up to the ceiling. And step it through between your hands. This time low lunge on the other side. Again, check that knee to make sure it's behind the toes. Keep that right knee lifted. Feel the stretch in that right hip flexor. Just really continue to breathe deeply as you go through these poses. And keeping your belly and chest down on your left thigh, start to straighten that left leg. And this is where you may find that one side is tighter than the other. And that's really the great thing about yoga, is that you really start to learn your body. You learn maybe you have better balance on one side or certain tightnesses. And so I think it's really important, the knowledge you gain from it. And again, bend the knee, low lunge, and step back into down dog. Press through those hands, head between the arms, heels reaching toward the mat, and float the right leg up to the ceiling again. Should feel by now that your hips are getting a little bit looser. Step it through between the hands. This time, high lunge. Knee stays behind the toes. Arms beside the ears. Back leg stays strong, pressing into the mat. Deep breaths. And take the right hand down to the inside of that right foot and just start to open up to the side. Nice side angle stretch. Keep breathing. And if you want to deepen the stretch, you can drop this left hand behind your back. Just try to open up as much as possible. And if you want to bind, you can take this right hand underneath the thigh and try to bind your hands behind your back. Oops, you might lose your balance, that's okay, just come back into it. Open up the shoulder. Really sink down into the stretch. And slowly release, hands back to the mat, step back into down dog. Press through the hands. And float the left foot up to the ceiling. Step it through. High lunge on the left side. Again, check to make sure that knee is behind the toes. Arms beside the ears. Strong back leg. And deep breaths. And this time you're going to take the left hand to the inside of the left foot. Rotate open that right shoulder. Try to look up toward the ceiling. Continue to breathe deeply. And if you want to deepen the stretch, you can drop that right hand behind your back. And if you'd like to bind, you can reach through with the left hand and bind. Again, though, you can just stay in the side angle if you don't want to bind. And slowly release, hands back to the mat, step back into down dog. Take a deep breath Float the right foot up to the ceiling. And as you step it through, we're going to keep that right knee bent, and we're going to bring the right foot over to your left wrist. We're going to come into pigeon pose. So what you want to do is keep that left leg out straight behind you and keep this right knee bent. You don't want to let your weight collapse to the right side, so try to stay up, centered. And then as you exhale, just try to start releasing your body forward into pigeon pose. This is really a great stretch. Again, for the hips, for the IT bands, for your glutes. And as you exhale, if you feel more comfortable, you can come all the way down to the mat. The important thing is to keep that right hip off the mat and stretch to your ability level. And push back up onto the hands, and we'll stretch the quad. So bring up this left leg, reach behind with the left hand, and slowly start to pull that left foot into your glutes, feeling a nice stretch in your quadriceps. Continue to breathe. If you're feeling flexible and you're maybe more advanced, you can hook the left foot and the left elbow. You can bind, but whatever the case, just keep stretching to your ability and continue to breathe. And slowly release. Step back into down dog. Push through the hands, let the heels drop. And float the left foot up to the ceiling. And this time as we swing it through, bend that left knee, place it by the left wrist, come into pigeon pose again. Make sure you keep this left hip lifted off the mat, kind of center yourself, right leg extended behind you. And as you exhale, start to hinge forward over your legs, stretching to your ability level. And as you come back up to the hands, let's bring that right foot up toward the body. Reach back with your right hand, start to pull it in toward the glutes. Feel a good stretch in the quadriceps. You can just hold right here, or if you're feeling more flexible, you can tuck that right foot in the right crook of the elbow, and you can go ahead and bind. The important thing is to get a good stretch and to continue breathing deeply. And slowly release the hands back to the mat and step back into down dog. Okay, again from down dog, we're going to float that right leg up to the ceiling. This time we're going to bend at the knee and just start to open up that right hip to the side. And then try to look over your left shoulder to see if you can see that foot. And your hip should be feeling quite a bit looser by this point. Should be feeling much better. And again, straighten that leg out. Step it all the way through into pigeon pose again. This time we're just going to stay up. Couple deep breaths, and we're going to angle this leg in front of us. We're going to come into, it's called cow face pose. So what you're going to do is going to have the right leg bent below you, and then bring that left leg over the top. You're gonna try to line up your knees as best as possible. Again, maybe too stiff to get it looking exactly like this. Try to get both feet on the floor, and then you want both sit bones on the floor. So kind of work yourself into position. You don't want any strain or pain, so just keep that in mind as well. And then try to release your shoulders down away from your ears. Sit up nice and tall. This is a great stretch for the IT bands, so if you notice that it's really tight, it could be that you have tight IT bands. And just breathe. Nice deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And let's again try to stretch and open up the shoulders. Let's take the right hand down behind the back. You can stay here, or you can bring the left hand behind. Try to reach those hands together. Really stretch. And if you want an added challenge, you can just start to hinge forward from the hips. And usually you'll feel definitely more of a stretch in that left hip as you do this. Continue to breathe and settle into the stretch. If any of these stretches feels, extra challenging, you probably have some tightness in that area. So it would be a good idea to focus on that every day. Maybe do this stretch if you're struggling with your IT bands. And sit back up tall, release the hands. A couple more deep breaths. And release. Come back to hands and knees. Push back into down dog. And come into down dog. And this time we're going to float the left leg up to the ceiling. And we're going to bend that left knee. Try to open up the hips. And you can look over that right shoulder to see if you can see your foot. Really opening up that left hip. And press that foot toward the ceiling again. Bring it all the way through into pigeon pose again. And then we're going to bring this left knee bent under us. This time the right knee is going to come over top the right leg, I should say. And try to get settled so that both sit bones are on the floor. Both knees are lined up. Both feet are on the floor. And again, if you have a lot of tightness, that may not be possible for you, but just get into that position as best you can. Let your shoulders relax down, sit up nice and tall, and start to breathe. And this time we're going to bring the left hand behind the back. Try to reach down a little farther than before. Bring the right hand behind. See if you can touch those fingers. Again, you can get a hand towel and grab one end of that, and it can help kind of open up your shoulders. And just continue to breathe as you let the crown of your head float toward the ceiling. And if you want an added stretch, just start to hinge forward from the hips. Might feel a little more tension in that right hip. Continue to breathe. Often one side of the body is tighter than the other, so it's kind of a good idea to work maybe a little bit more on that side. Come back up to a seated position. Release the hands. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Let yourself relax into this position. And go ahead and release. We're going to go over to our backs. Tuck your heels in close to your glutes. And bring up your left foot and place it in front of the right thigh. You may be able to come up to here, you may be able to come lower. And just start to open up that left knee as much as you can. Keep the left foot flexed to protect the knee. And just open up as much as possible. And now lift up the right foot, the right leg, reach through And just try to pull it in closer to your chest. Continue taking your deep breaths. And we'll start to release back down to the mat. Both feet on the mat. And let's bring the right foot over top the left thigh. Again, it's okay if it's up here near your knee. It's okay if it's down here closer to your hip. Just whatever feels good for you. Flex this right foot and just start to press out your right knee a little bit to feel a good stretch. And to deepen the stretch, reach through, lift up the left leg and start to pull it in toward your chest. And slowly release it down. Come back up to a seated position. And we're going to go ahead and cool it down. So just come into a cross-legged position. Getting your hands on your knees, shoulders down away from your ears. Sit up nice and tall. And just inhale and exhale. Nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. I appreciate you joining me for this yoga stretching video today. If you felt any areas that were extra tight, you may want to spend a little more time on those. And this is something that you can do every single day. It will definitely help both your running and in every other area of life. So go out and be awesome. Thanks.